of this downtown Toronto coffee shop is bracing for the worst.
Struggling to pay rent down here anyway, now I can't. Within a few months from now, I will be closed.
Ontario's minimum wage hike will have to come out of customers' pockets. Prices here are going up 22%.
We've had 2 customers already leave and say Tim Hortons hasn't raised their rates. So we're losing business because of this.
Tim Hortons franchisees are contractually forbidden from raising prices, but some are taking other controversial actions. CBC News has now learned several cut paid breaks and clawed back contributions toward employee benefits. We agreed to disguise this employee's voice.
There's not much we can do about it. We risk losing our job, and they're not that easy to get.
As we reflect on a video released 5 years ago that highlighted the potential hardships caused by an increase in the minimum wage, it's essential to delve into the broader spectrum of its consequences. The video depicted how small businesses and low-income employees face challenges as prices soared due to the minimum wage hike. The impact of an increased minimum wage involves multifaceted consequences. One primary concern is the potential for job losses, particularly within industries operating on thin profit margins. Businesses facing challenges affording higher labor costs might resort to reducing their workforce or scaling back new hires, with potential ramifications for employment, particularly among entry-level and less skilled workers. Moreover, an escalated minimum wage could lead to higher unemployment rates, especially among low-skilled and entry-level workers, possibly pushing businesses to invest in automation or streamline labor-intensive processes. This, in turn, may exacerbate the need for individuals to hold multiple jobs to make ends meet. Inflation could also emerge as a repercussion, as businesses pass on elevated labor costs to consumers through increased prices for goods and services. Small businesses, in particular, might grapple with absorbing these heightened labor expenses, potentially leading to financial strain or closures. In response to increased labor costs, some businesses might even turn to off-the-books hiring or cash transactions to evade higher wages, while regional variations in the cost of living could further exacerbate disparities. The intricate interplay of these consequences underscores the vital need for meticulous contemplation in decisions regarding minimum wage adjustments. Striking a balance between enhancing workers' economic well-being and addressing potential challenges faced by businesses and the broader economy remains an imperative task for policymakers.
Good evening to everybody who's watching us now in this moment, wherever it is that this image is being received, whether it be Tuver, YouTube, Facebook. We're here live to bring you guys the very best of certain topics, controversial topics, where you guys can be able to speak your mind. I'm not by myself, but I'm here with Miss Audrey. Miss Audrey, how you doing?
Good evening, Pastor. I'm well, thank you.
If you want to chime in and let us know about the topic that we have tonight, can an increase in minimum wages benefit or damage society? 877-785-8700. Or if you want to send us a message through WhatsApp, you can definitely do that. 437-233-9815. And Mrs. Audrey, we're going to be following along on Telegram because we have a poll, correct?
Yes, correct, Pastor. So I would like to invite all our viewers to go ahead and they can scan the QR code as it appears on their screen and they can join our poll because closer towards the end of our program, we'll announce the results. And the poll goes like this: can an increase in minimum wage benefit or damage society? Let us know what you think. I also want to read a comment that we already received from Nikki that says, more unemployment is much higher than inflation. This is the reason why the minimum wage does everywhere in the world increase. We also have Greg that says like this: it will take a toll on the economy. Companies will raise their prices to cover additional costs, or they'll reduce staff, or both. So we have all of these comments here that we'd like to share with you, and more to come like this.
I have also here Chris, who goes, this is very double-edged. Raising the minimum wage is like using a special tool that has both good and not so good effects. The good part is that it helps people who earn less money to have more and buy things that they need. But there has to be some extensive precautions taken into account because it might make some businesses find it hard to keep jobs or even close. It's important to remember that different places have different costs and types of jobs. cities versus suburbs or small towns with small businesses, the prices of things can go up, and some jobs might be done by machines instead of people. So everyone should work together to decide the best way to make sure workers are okay and businesses can still do well. And I think we already have our first caller. Let's see if we can connect them now on the line. We have Luca. Luca, can you hear me?
Hi, Pastor. Yes.
How you doing, Luca?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. We're asking everybody the following question, having you as our first caller. Do you think, Luca, that an increase in minimum wage, you think it benefits, or do you think it's damage or could damage society?
So I'll share my quick opinion here. I talked to my mom about this, and she agreed. So pretty much, society, everything's increasing in prices, like at the grocery store, or housing, or just anything. So pretty much everyone needs to have steady pay or something. But at this point, the wage isn't covering most of that, and there's a lot of people who are suffering because of that. So I think that with these little increases in minimum wage, it helps, but it also damages society because it's not getting to the point where it needs to be. It's just cushioning it a little, but then it's just really not helping or benefiting society that it needs to be.
And what do you say then, Luca, to some businesses who, unfortunately, lack of instruments or lack of being able to take care of their employees, they end up raising the price on certain things just to pay their workers more? Do you agree with that? Do you think it's okay for the businesses to maybe not take care of an employee when they're sick, or, for example, when they're pregnant, as opposed to taking care of them, knowing that they're not paying them enough?
Well, I mean, that's where it comes in. When they increase the prices of that, and that's why, that's exactly, you just covered my point there, because they're increasing things in the company. They cover their own employee costs or anything. And so that's just, because they're it pretty much is damaging society.
Now, Luca, when do you have a job? Sorry to be so intrusive with this question.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I work retail.
Now, when you started, were you right away accepting minimum wage?
I had a job before. It was with McDonald's, and I was on student wage. But when I got to retail, I was accepted with minimum wage. Yeah.
So you accepted or you didn't accept? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that part.
Oh, no, I accepted because it's better than actual student wage. So I took the actual minimum wage. Yeah.
Okay. And then what do you say to Luca? Luca, my last question for you, to people who don't accept minimum wage when they go to a job. They have qualifications and they go, no, I'm not working for anything less than so and so amount. Do you agree with that? Do you think raising the minimum wage would kind of take a chill? People looking to be employed wouldn't be asking for so much?
I mean, yeah, increasing minimum wage will help with that, because a lot of people say, I'm not going to work for, right now, it's 15.50 cents, right?
Yeah.
So they're not accepting that. So if they just increase it, then I feel like more people will realize that while the increases come, then they still will come work.
Luca, thank you so much for speaking your mind and even having your mom chime in with her opinion as well. Have a good night, okay?
All right, thank you. Good night, Pastor.
Take care. So our next topic, going into minimum wage, about housing, how people are able to afford housing when it comes to people who don't even win that much. I want you to pay attention, and when we come back, we'll go to another caller.
Silvana Orellana is a single mom with a full-time job, but earning minimum wage, she's falling behind on paying rent.
I'm currently in a one-bedroom and a den, and the den isn't that big, and that's where my baby sleeps. The bedroom isn't also that big. This is technically a basement, and I'm paying close to $2,000 for it.
She isn't alone. A new report by the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives highlights just how difficult it can be to find affordable housing. They looked at 800 neighborhoods across Canada. A minimum wage earner could only afford a one-bedroom unit in 54 of them, and a two-bedroom in just 21. They used data from last year, and rent has only gotten more expensive since.
I'm concerned about minimum wage workers, and these kinds of very risky situations, they must be putting themselves through it.
The think tank says no one should pay more than 30% of their income on housing, a standard becoming more aspirational than a reality.
It's quite disturbing that in Canada we have such an extreme cost of living challenge for so many people.
Wages are one problem. The short supply of apartments is another. The third, a lack of regulations on current rental properties. This expert says the crisis calls for rent subsidies.
Consider rent geared to income. That's a way of ensuring that the low-income Canadians can at least afford the rent that they do have to pay now.
Orlana is falling behind on some bills, even as she relies on family for help, including her parents.
Recently, they came up to me and they're like, listen, we love you. We love your son. Like, we'd do anything to help you, but this is getting expensive and we can't pay our own bills now. This one's always fun.
She would love to have more space, but she's focused now on making sure her current rent is always paid. Kyle Bax, CBC News, Toronto.
I was speaking with somebody, Ms. Audrey, and they were saying that now what you get at a supermarket, whether that be Food Basics, Freshco, Farm Boy, whether that be No Frills, it's not the same $100, $150 compared to what it was before. We're going to show in a little bit the street interviews. Did you get any opinions that kind of stood out to you, people who maybe chimed in with this?
Yes, Pastor. I mean, there was a lot of people that, compared how it was growing up, how they had, one in particular stood out to me that she said that when she was, in school, having an extra job, right? A job after school, for her minimum wage was okay because it was something she didn't have to pay bills. She didn't have to pay anything really. It was just more for herself, for her to be able to buy whatever she wanted and etc. She had her mother to depend on, but as she got older, of course, that started to change. Her mentality started to change. Well, she started to look for a better job and etc. But she was comparing, like, for example, if it was someone like her that was a teenager, for them to receive minimum wage is okay. But for someone that has a family to support, trying to live here, especially in Toronto, they pointed out was that it's very expensive, and she understands the importance of increasing minimum wage, and that if a lot of people come up with this excuse, in her opinion, she says that increasing minimum wage, not increasing minimum wage, sorry, is more of an excuse. Like, people say that the economy will, be affected, inflation will increase. So in her opinion, it was like all of that's just an excuse to not raise minimum wage. So we have many people that shared their experience, shared their opinions. As you'll see, we're going to go into the street interviews, and this is what they had to say. I also want to share someone that sent a message, actually, that says like this. TJ, in his opinion, he said, Canadians should learn that raising minimum wage doesn't help anyone. Lowering the cost of goods is what helps everyone. So we have those two different sides. Right. Everyone has their opinion, but that's what we're here for on Speak Your Mind, so that you can share what you have to say in regards to this topic. So don't forget to continue calling in. The number is 877-785-8700.
And I think we have Crystal also on Zoom. Let's see if we can connect her. Crystal, do you hear me? Hello, Crystal?
I can't hear you.
How you doing, Crystal?
Hi, guys. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you perfect now.
Okay, it's pretty low, though.
we're gonna find a way to raise up the volume. But meanwhile, Miss, we've been asking everybody about an increase in minimum wage. Do you think it just benefits, or do you think it could damage society?
Okay, I think earlier on someone said something about this being like a double-edged sword, and in some way it could benefit, and in another way it could be detrimental to the society. Now, of course, it's going to benefit the employees. They're getting more money. But then if you look at, say, business owners, that means that they would have to be giving out more money than they are most likely making. So some people would be benefiting, and then others probably not so much. But I think what we should really be looking at is maybe the cost of living. Because if you have, say, a lower cost of living, even if you are making a certain amount of money, you would be able to live within your means. But if cost of living is quite high, definitely. Even if you make much more, it almost seems like it's nothing. Because I think right now, say for example, our minimum wage is 15.50 in Ontario, I guess.
Yes, and in October, Miss Crystal, they're thinking about raising it to 16.55.
Yes, they're gonna raise it, say, I think in October of this year. Now, the point is, if it's raised, say, for example, to 16.50, 55, like they want to, but then your house rent increases from, let's say, 1,500 a month to 2,000 a month, it still kind of doesn't balance eventually. So I think what we should really focus on is having lower cost of living generally, rather than chasing after, say, increase in minimum wage. Because the truth of the matter is, no matter how much people earn, if the cost of living does not, I would say, sort of balances, you keep going in circles and always wanting to have more increase, but then nothing is working out.
Now, Ms. Crystal, I have this question because you said we can reduce the cost of living. Reducing the cost of living would mean less money to certain businesses or coming to certain businesses.
I'm sorry, Pastor, can you say that again? I'm not getting you quite low.
Bet. You said that one of the things that we can do is to reduce the cost of living, correct?
Yes.
That would only affect businesses as opposed to people. What do you say then to businesses who say, if I reduce my cost, then I'm not going to have enough money coming in? Do you think, or is your opinion more based on the customers, on the people, or would it be just making sure that businesses cut off their costs?
Okay, so generally, I think this goes really deep, and it's not just going to be surface level on employees and business owners only. So you're most likely going to be looking at the government and economics playing a whole lot in this. Because if you have even businesses having better opportunities and better incentives, then you will see that even if businesses have lower prices, but if their spending power or their purchasing power is equivalent to how much they are receiving in terms of profit, then that is going to balance off. So if you as a business owner, you no longer spend as much as you spend on your raw materials or on your transportation, eventually the profit that you would make would be okay. But if you as a business owner, you spend more on getting your merchandise, getting your production going on, definitely you would want to look for, I would say, more profit. So it goes beyond business owners and just employees, but I think the government, the economical sector, and I don't know, the Wall Street guys and things like that would probably have to do more in ensuring that the society as a whole, so that everyone is sort of benefiting from it. Because if you want to fight for employees to get certain benefits, you also have to fight for business owners to ensure that, okay, I'm spending lesser money on buying, on producing, so that whatever profit I make would also be okay for me.
Ms. Crystal, thank you so much for speaking your mind with us tonight. Okay? Have a good night. God bless you. Take care. You can keep calling us now, 877-785-8700, or through WhatsApp, 437-233-9815. Miss Audrey, we will be watching now certain people who are under minimum wage and they end up losing ground, with rent. Now, it's one of the main things that affects so many people who are working for minimum wage nowadays is how they keep up with payments. But when we come back, we'll be reading more comments. Pay attention.
Well, it's pretty crazy. Like, my rent just went up. A bunch of my friends' rent just went up.
Minimum wage workers all across Canada are losing ground in the struggle to afford rent. A new study coming via the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives says the rental wage required to live comfortably in every single province is significantly higher than minimum wage. On the streets of Calgary, the data comes as no surprise.
I know I was really lucky when I first moved into my apartment, because as soon as I moved in, all the other apartments like went right up. So I was really lucky, but then now a year later it's gone up too.
We were just moving back to Calgary actually after being in Vancouver for about a year, and it was shocking to see how high prices had risen in the year that we were gone.
The report bases its numbers on how much money Canadians would need to make in a 40-hour work week to afford paying 30% of their income on housing. Based on 2022's average rental prices for a one-bedroom apartment, Vancouverites and Torontonians would need more than $30 an hour to afford the accommodation. Calgarians would meanwhile need a wage of $24.65. In Edmonton, the number is $20.89, while Winnipeg sits. But economist Ron Kneebone says
they're unlikely to be renting or trying to rent the average apartment. Instead, they're going to be trying to rent one down at the lower end of the price distribution.
Based on that lower distribution, Kneebone says Calgarians making minimum wage were more likely to pay in the ballpark of $988 a month.
If you assume people rent that kind of apartment, then the minimum wage you would need in order to afford that apartment is only $19.
The number still falls $4 higher than Alberta's minimum wage, but Kneebone believes raising the percentage of income spent on housing is reasonable given the rental market. In Calgary, Tate Lakecraft, City News.
You know, it was so interesting that he said that he had left a certain province, and when he came back just after a year, he was surprised to learn that how much price in things and their price had gone up. Ms. Audrey, do you have any more comments?
I do, Pastor. Someone that says like this. Well, Jeff, he says, imagine if companies didn't raise the prices every time minimum wages goes up. It would make better sense. But the reality is we aren't going to make more thanks to business owners raising their price. We are now actually going to be making less than ever. So in this person's opinion, they say it's pointless to leave it where it is and there's no point in changing the price.
I think we have with us Catherine on call. Let's see if we can connect her. Catherine, do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you, Pastor.
Catherine, we're asking everybody the following question about raising minimum wage. Do you think it can benefit or do you think it damages society?
I think raising the minimum wage actually hurts our economy. It hurts your buying power because I think like what people have mentioned before, businesses, they have to make up for labor costs. And in that sense, they increase the price of goods, which means that your buying power, like, yes, you can be making $16 an hour more, right? So you're like, oh, I'm making more money, but you're also spending more because now the prices of goods are going up. And if we keep raising the minimum wage, businesses, and we've seen it time after time, they're forced to go to automation. They'll rather invest in a kiosk as opposed to paying someone the labor cost. They'll go to a kiosk. You know, like if you enter McDonald's or fast food chains, you don't even need a cash register anymore. You know, with technology, we have now replaced that, which means now more people are out of a job, you know, and scrapping for change. So I don't think that minimum wage actually helps at all. It makes more people, it's at a disadvantage to people if we keep increasing the wage.
Now, Catherine, what do you say to people who have a certain mindset and they go, well, these businesses don't care about me. My employer doesn't really care about me. I just want to make money. Do you think it was kind of like a disconnect in that type of mindset?
I think you have to have a job, like you have to kind of shop for a job, like you shop for clothes in a sense. You have to find the right fit, you know, with the skills that you have or the skills that you learned in your previous job. Studies have shown that if you switch jobs within 2 years, like every 2 years, if you switch jobs and you find something better, like something above minimum wage, which there is out there if you go looking. I'm not saying quit your job and stay without a job. I'm saying like stay in the job that you have now, but shop around for other jobs until you find companies that are there for their employees, because there are companies that put into your retirement. There are companies there that you have to shop around that do care about their employees. I'm sorry. So it's a matter of like finding the job that's right for you and not being stagnant or like just staying in one position. And like, don't be afraid to take risks, you know, like, because you will find.
Catherine, do you think it's easier for a business to reduce their cost, or do you think it's easier for an employee on minimum wage to find a better job?
I think it's easier for an employee to find a job because a business can reduce costs, but that does not mean that they're going to pay their employers more. A business will reduce their costs and pocket that money. Like, that's what business owners do, because everything is supply and demand. You know, if like things start to go down, okay, the price is not going to go down. That's just more of an income for them. So it's better for the person to say, you know what, I'm not happy here. I refuse to stay here, and I'm going to learn a skill set. I'm going to learn something. Like, yes, it's more challenging of you, the individual, but in the long term, it's better for you because you can find something that will make you happy. So you're just not in that cycle of like going to work, going home, living paycheck to paycheck.
Now, Catherine,
I got break out of that cycle.
I got a question from Miss Audrey for you.
Yes, Catherine, I just wanted to chime in here. I did want to ask you, you know, here in Canada, the wages is supposed to go up on October 1st by $1 or so. Do you think people would be okay with that, or it will still not be enough?
I do not think it can go up $1. Like I said, it's your buying power. It can go up $5. It could go up $1 every year for the next 10 years, right? Like, just running numbers. It's like whatever goes up, just know if your minimum wage is going up, the price of goods is also going to go up because businesses have to make up for the loss that they're losing in labor costs. So at $1, it's not like a big change, you can say, right? It's only you think of it like $1. So maybe your food might only go up 10 cents. You don't see it, right? Or maybe instead of a burger being 3 ounces, now it's like 2.95 ounces. Like, companies will find a way to make you, the human, feel like, oh no, you don't see the difference, but there is a difference. You know, like they'll reduce the size of the burger, or they'll like they'll increase something 10 cents. Where in your mind they'll be like, oh, it's not that bad, you know. But in the long run, or like after a while, you're gonna be like, oh, like there is an effect in your pocket.
And then just finishing up here with you, Catherine, there are certain people who, when we asked them this certain question, right away they said, you should never just accept minimum wage. Do you agree with a statement like that? Or do you understand, maybe even have some type of sympathy for people who are okay working minimum wage?
I think you can't just say like, oh, you shouldn't be okay with it because there's different circumstances, you know. There's moms that can't work full-time jobs, so they work part-time jobs because it's easier to work a part-time job than to pay childcare, you know. Like, every individual has to see what works for them, what's better for them. But if you are currently working minimum wage and you are not happy with minimum wage, you know, like, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a change, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you want that change because you're not happy with yourself, then you have to look for that change. You can't expect businesses to do that for you because, unfortunately, they're not going to. But businesses are going to look out for themselves, and they may look out for their employees, but that's not the reality in Canada, anywhere in the world. So it's like, my best suggestion to people is to shop around and find a job that fits for you. You can stay in a minimum wage job as long as you need, you know, because bills still have to get paid and you still have to eat. But if you shop around correctly, you should be able to find something.
Catherine, thank you so much for speaking your mind with us, okay? Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You can keep calling us now, 877-785-8700, or through WhatsApp, 437-233-9815. Mrs. Audrey, do we have any more comments?
We do. We have Kevin that actually says increasing minimum wage won't solve the problem. We have to decrease taxes. And we have here, I'd like to remind everyone about our Telegram poll that we have going on. That's still continuing. You can go ahead and scan the QR code as it appears on your screen and answer the following. Can an increase in minimum wage benefit or damage society? Let us know, because we'll be announcing the results and more comments.
And we want to go now to the streets of Toronto to see what they said about this topic. We'll be right back.
should be higher. It should be higher.
I think that minimum wage is not enough for people to get by on these days. I think that minimum wage is exactly what it is. The bare minimums that companies are willing to pay people to do their labor. You know, everybody always says, oh, if it goes up, then everything else goes up. But everything goes up regardless. And up, and yet people's pay haven't. The numbers have shown that really, in essence, we should be getting paid more than what minimum wage is in order to live basically, not even comfortably. So absolutely, I think it would benefit. And it would put a lot of less strain on everything else.
Well, I think it would definitely benefit, but there's going to be some murky waters when it first happens, because then, you know, people like No Frills or other realtors are going to say, well, if theirs go up, I got to rack my prices up too. So, because, you know, we can't take away from the CEOs. They need to make their $1 billion a year. They need their jets and their, you know, yachts and stuff.
I think the minimum wage should increase more because it'll give the kids in high school that a little incentive to go look for a job, because then they know they're going to have benefits also with the companies they're working for, like Tim Hortons and places like that. Right now, for a student, I'd say 17 to 18 would be a fair for a student.
Well, I don't think it's enough. It's definitely not enough to let people live in the city, especially with the way prices keep rising. The inflation is not going anywhere. And I think the least that the government can do is raise minimum wage, so that it's actually in line with the cost of living in the city. I mean, this is one of the most expensive cities to live in Canada. I think the least the government can do is raise minimum wage. No, I think that's just an excuse, especially when prices are already increasing and no one can really tell us why except for corporate greed. I don't think that there's any excuse not to raise the minimum wage.
I work in retail and with a lot of minimum wage coworkers, and I understand that it's hard to get by and minimum wage should go up. I think it's appropriate.
When I was working, I was getting $27 an hour. So now the pay is peanuts, okay? Sometimes people can afford it. After paying rent, they can afford the food. That's why we see so many people live on the street. And it's so sad because we are on Canada, is a democratic country, okay? Helps a lot of people from all over the world, okay? Why want to cut the minimum wage, okay? So you have money, but you don't want to pay?
A worrying new picture tonight of the financial burden Canadians are carrying and the anxiety it's creating as higher interest rates and the cost of living stretch budgets. The snapshot comes just days before the Bank of Canada's next rate decision. CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin reports.
On the menu in grocery store aisles right across Canada, plenty of talk about bills adding up.
It's outrageous. It's hardly able to make ends meet with the price of food.
The cost of living, higher interest rates have stretched more than half of Canadians' budgets to near the breaking point. According to a survey by insolvency firm MNP, 52% are $200 away from not being able to meet financial obligations. That's up 6% from last quarter. More than a third already can't cover their bills and debt payments.
We've been doing this for 5 years. We've never seen numbers like this.
And it's not just food eating away at Canadians' wallets. The price tag of essential items is up right across the board. Canadians report an average increase of $230 in their weekly spending.
And those who most regret taking on the debt they have are millennials from the ages of about 27 to 42 years old.
It's a generation hit particularly hard by the cost of housing and mortgage rates that could go up again this week.
If the Bank of Canada, for example, raise rates again this Wednesday, it will be the highest level in 30 years. So for a lot of Canadians, it's a very tough financial situation to be in.
Part of the balancing act as the Bank of Canada continues to try to keep inflation in check. A separate survey also released today found 15% of Canadians are cutting back on retirement savings, while 1/3 are preparing for a possible recession by building up savings.
Sometimes they buy 2-3 packages.
At Espositos, a family-run business serving consumers for more than 60 years, they say good deals fly off the shelves quicker than ever.
They have to eat, eh? And we see a lot of people that come every day to shop and looking for prices to go down and all that.
Looking for a bargain, increasingly part of the shopping experience. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
And we're back. We have another comment here from Rebecca, who sends us a message from Alberta. She says the following: raising minimum wage isn't just as easy as it sounds. As a business owner, you have to take a lot into consideration to help those. It's not that we don't want to help, but it's a little bit difficult when you have so much on the line, like the future of your business, the future of your employers, and so many other things that are connected with decisions like this. And I think, Ms. Audrey, we also have another caller, correct?
Yes, Adriana, can you hear us?
Yes.
Hello, good evening. And Adriana, as you have been, I believe joining us throughout the program of the show, asking this question to everyone, do you think that an increase in minimum wage can benefit or damage society? What's your opinion on this?
Well, actually, it's very difficult to answer because if they rise minimum wage, the people they're gonna have like more power to buy, but at the same time, businesses are just gonna rise all of the prices, so they're gonna lose this power of buying. So it just keeps the same. So for me, it's like it damage a little bit the economy, because when the business rise the prices, sometimes they don't rise it like just what they need to pay the increase of minimum wage. It's going to be more, because it's not only the increase of minimum wage, but for example, transportations go higher, all of the materials that they need for businesses, they go higher, so they have to increase more. So it's like you lose your power of buying when you get these huge rises like this, not like a 20 cents rise, for example, per year. So because everything goes up.
And what do you have to say about people that are uncomfortable with minimum wages? What's the problem there for them to say that they have tried, they looked for a job, but yet they're still not finding a better job, being able to sustain their cost of living? What would you say is the problem there?
Well, actually, yes, it's like, for example, people who are living on a minimum wage, if you're a student and you're living on a minimum wage, normally you don't have as many bills to pay as, for example, for a family. So for them, it's okay. But if you have a family, you are having like a lot of difficulty living on minimum wage and you have a lot of things to pay, you really have to like look around for another job. Or the best thing that you can do, even if it's difficult and it's going to take like a lot of effort, is you have to acquire like more capacities. You have to, I'm not saying that you have to go to university and go and study, because that is not everybody who can afford, especially if you have like young kids and everything with the time. But there are a lot of things that now you can learn on by yourself, or that you can learn, for example, online. And there's a lot of new businesses that you can start online with almost like without nothing, without like paying nothing. So you just really have to increase your own value, like not your money value, but your own value. So when you increase your own value, you can or get a better job, or you can become your own boss with a lot of effort. This is not magic.
And Adriana, I also want to ask one final question. So in October 1st, it's supposed to go up about $1 or so. Do you think people will be satisfied with this minimum wage, or do you think they're still going to complain and have something to say about this?
They're still going to complain, because it's always the same story. They are going to have more, but then like not even a month after, all of the prices are going to increase, or even before they have the minimum wage rise, all the prices are going to increase, because businesses, they have to get ready for that change. So people are still going to be complaining. Even if the minimum wage goes like to $25, it's still going to be the same story. So it's really like we need like every everyone, like if we are not happy with our situation, we really need to like increase our value, like we say, and then we can change our situation. Because if you stay always like in minimum wage, whatever the minimum wage is gonna be, everything is gonna rise. So you're just staying in the same situation.
Well, thank you so much, Adriana, for speaking your mind. And we want to have everyone to conclude the final poll that we have on our Telegram. We want to announce the results shortly. We're going to go and conclude this Telegram poll that we have. What is the benefits? Do you believe it's a beneficial to increase minimum wage, or do you think it's going to damage society? So we're going to tell the final results shortly.
And we've been hearing a lot of people, Audrey, say about the negative outcome of raising. But now we want to show you the positives. Yes, the positive outcome of raising minimum wage. We'll be back.
We have a new snapshot today of the cost of living and the struggle to make ends meet. A new rental report highlights just how tough it is for people making minimum wage to afford a place to live in many cities. Let's get those details from the CBC's Scott Peterson.
Anyone making minimum wage in this country knows how tough it is to afford any place to live, and that is if you can find it with rental rates as low as they are. But there's an old metric that banks and any kind of financial analysts use, that only a third of your income should be devoted to shelter costs, whether that's mortgage costs or rental costs. And depending on what the minimum wage is, that it means that a lot of more expensive cities, if not most cities in Canada, are beyond the means of people making minimum wage to be able to afford basically a place to live. This is a new report out from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, for example. And for example, if you make $3,000 a month, for example, according to this 30% formula, you can only afford to pay out $1,000. And that's a metric used by banks and financial analysts going back about 40 years. But let's get into the numbers as far as what this means for people making minimum wage out there. That means that 93% of all neighborhoods in this study are unaffordable for those making minimum wages. The end result here is a minimum wage earner can only afford a 2-bedroom apartment in 21 neighborhoods across Canada out of about 800 that were studied in regards to this report. And now a rental wage, to look at the specifics on this, to afford a 1-bedroom apartment in Ontario, for example, is required about $26 an hour, or about $30 an hour for a 2-bedroom unit. That's both about 2 times the amount of money people are making on minimum wage. And a minimum wage in Ontario, for example, is $15.50. And that's one and amongst the highest in the country. Now, results are similar in BC and Alberta, while Quebec and Newfoundland and Labrador have the smallest gaps between the rental and the minimum wages. Toronto and Vancouver, according to this study, are priced out of the market for a lot of people looking to rent. And so what that means is, a result of this, a lot of people are not able to live in the cities that they work in. And yes, there's a lot of new Canadians continuing to come in, according to the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, and it means that they're going to have to either suffer huge commute times to get to places where they want to earn a living versus where they can afford to live. And this affects pretty much everything, Chris, that we've been talking about, from being able to afford a home, to be able to afford food for your family. And this is why we're seeing a lot of people going into more and more debt for month after month. And here's a real prime indication of why that's happening.
The Ontario government is increasing the minimum wage to $16.55 an hour on October 1st, 2023, amid concerns about rising living costs and the inability of some individuals in Canada to afford rent. The impact of increasing the minimum wage takes on added significance. Higher incomes for workers. Raising the minimum wage directly benefits low-wage workers by increasing their take-home pay. This can help lift some workers out of poverty and improve their overall financial well-being. Reduced income inequality. Increasing the minimum wage can help narrow the income gap between low-wage workers and higher-income individuals, leading to a more equitable distribution of income. Boost to consumer spending. Higher wages for low-income workers often result in increased consumer spending, as these workers are more likely to spend their additional income on goods and services, which can stimulate economic growth. Improved employee productivity and retention. With higher wages, employees may feel more motivated, satisfied, and loyal, leading to improved productivity and reduced turnover for businesses. Reduction in wage compression. When the minimum wage is increased, there can be a ripple effect on wages for workers earning slightly above the minimum wage, which helps prevent wage compression and maintains the wage hierarchy within the workforce. In considering the multifaceted consequences of increasing the minimum wage, finding a balance between addressing affordability challenges and fostering a stable economic environment becomes a crucial task for policymakers in Canada.
And we have now the results of our poll, right, Ms. Andre?
Yes, Pastor. So we have 38% that say an increase in any wage benefits, while the 29% say it takes a negative toll on the economy. And we have 33% that say people should just accept minimum wage.
And if you're watching us right now, and maybe you go, Pastor, I am going through a tough time with my business, finding work, or being at my job. How am I going to be able to go forward? How am I going to be able to provide for my family? How am I going to be able to advance in my life? Well, one of the things we see in the Word of God is the following. He goes like this: in all your ways, acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. There's going to be moments where your wage will rise. There's going to be moments where you're not going to be receiving what you think you should receive. There's going to be moments where you're going to have a lot of clients in your business, and moments where it's as if no one knows you exist. Whether that be the cause, whether that be the situation, when you acknowledge God in your life, you're able to have clarity in what you do. You have a direction. You have purpose. And that's what God wants to give you, because maybe you're somebody who you get nervous a lot. You're somebody who gives yourself very quickly to anxiety. You give yourself very quickly when you start getting worried. But God doesn't want that for you. He wants to set you free so much that I invite you guys to prepare a small cup of water. We're going to watch this testimony, Anithia Welch. You're going to see how this person was able to be free from the depression, from the anxiety, from the situations that she faced. In other words, she learned to acknowledge God, and he directed her path. And the same exact thing can happen to you. Pay attention.
My scene was Hollywood. That was my stomping ground. That was what I did. I went sometimes to 4 or 5 clubs a night, passing out flyers to get people to come to my club. I put flyers on cars. I went in clubs and gave flyers to the DJ. It was all about getting people to come to my events that I had. So a lot of time, when that environment, there's drinking, there's drugs, like that was part of my everyday life. And definitely had times where I blacked out drinking and didn't know where I was at or how I got home. Because of the abusive relationship, when you have somebody who calls you every kind of name and treats you bad and puts you down and then tells you I love you, it's the most confusing thing. I had never experienced that before. So in order to want to be with him, I started doing ecstasy, because that was like a feel-good drug. It was supposed to be. So that just led to more blackouts, times where you don't remember what happened. So it just got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore.
I got paid to drink.
Because when you don't remember what happened, times I would wake up with burns on my legs. Like I didn't know how that happened. Times I would drive home at 3 a.m. and not remember driving. I basically got paid to drink. When you're in a club, you want to get people to come. So you give them drinks, you drink. So that was my life, was being drunk all the time, being high. I basically got to a point where I knew I was raised Christian in the church, but I just went to this point where I was just doing what I wanted to do because I was raised more strict. So by the time I got ready to be on my own, I was just like, I'll do whatever I want to do. So I knew I got to a certain point when the blackouts got to being out of control that I need to come to God. I saw a commercial for the church on the TV in the middle of the night, and that's what that was the beginning of this journey, like to get to the church. But then it was something that stopped me. It was about a month until I actually came to the church. I knew where the address was. I knew what kind of where the street was, but just something was stopping me from actually getting there. When I first came to the church, it actually wasn't a service. It was a pastor that talked to me, and he told me my life. Oh, you drink, and you secretly drink. And because what I did was I drank and I got high to cope, to be able to be in the situation I was in. I was a good person. I had a good heart. But when you're being treated bad, it's like there's no understanding of why. So you cover it up with getting high. So nobody knew that about me. Not even my partner knew that. So when I came and the pastor told me that, I was like, okay. He prayed for me. So he invited me to come back. The whole reason for coming was the counseling. I didn't think about coming to church. I was looking for a Christian counselor. I wasn't thinking about coming and joining a church. In my mind, I already had God, even though I was doing all these things.
The message was so real.
So the reality of giving up on those things, like thinking your life is good, but you're holding on to those things that are really destroying you, that was for me like an eye-opener. Like, I'm holding on to getting high and it's not really doing anything for me. So the message was just so real that it was like, okay, I wanted to have that peace.
Now, I do the work of God.
Right now, I have so much natural joy. I do not need to be high. I have peace. I don't need to depend on anybody financially. Have my own business. The funny thing is I came for counseling, but now I can counsel people because of the Holy Spirit. I do the work of God. I have compassion for people. It's just, I'm different. I have total peace and joy and happiness, and I have self-control. It's just totally different.
Prepare a glass of water or get closer to your television screen. At this moment, we will have a special prayer to your name.
My God, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, we pray right now and we minister in this moment the deliverance to this person who watches us right now. This person who is so worked up about their job, about their career, and they haven't been able to go forward. You who watch us right now, I extend my hand to this camera and I set you free in Jesus' name. Be free from the anxiety, be free from the depression, be free from the addictions, from all the problems that arise because your financial life doesn't go forward. Be free. My God, I determine that when they drink of this water, that inside of them they receive the strength, the faith to continue. Because my God, the doors that you open, nobody can close. So my God, I place the life of each and every single one of these people in your hands. In the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, we determine this water blessed, consecrated. Amen. Amen. Let us now drink of this water in Jesus' name. You are our special invitation for this Sunday, or our special invite for this Sunday in our gathering of faith and miracles. We're located here at 2420 Dufferin Street. Like you see the images right now on your screen, we're right there by Eglinton Avenue, but we're on the corner of Dufferin and Bowie. You can take the 29 bus or the 929 bus, and you will end up right there where we are located. You want to be set free. You want to be able to prosper. You want to go forward in your financial life. You want to go forward and prosper in every other area in your life. Take a step. Take a step forward and provoke that miracle. And you can do so here. God bless all of you. Have a good night.
Sunday of the Seven Prayers. In the gathering of faith and miracles, bringing restoration to health, prayer for your deliverance, to your love life, to your family, your financial life, for inner peace, and a real and true encounter with God. There are 7 prayers that will impact your life and destroy all your troubles, bringing new life in every way. Sunday of the Gathering of Faith and Miracles. Sunday at 10 a.m. 2420 Dufferin Street, 1 block north of Eglinton Avenue, and at every Universal Church in Canada.
Lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from my Lord, who made heaven and earth. He won't let my foot be moved. He who keeps me is the Lord, the one who keeps Israel. Will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is my keeper. He's the shade on my right hand. He keeps my soul. He protects me from all evil. He keeps my going out and my coming in. From now on and forever, the Lord is my keeper. He's the shade on my right hand. He keeps my soul. He protects me from all evil. He keeps my going out and my coming in. From now on and forever, I lift up my eyes to the hills.